Join me as I dive into the stories of the most unlikely heroes and challenge myself to find out why they were chosen by God, time and time again. From the beginning of time, God has had a peculiar way of choosing heroes. He doesn't always pick the strongest, the smartest, or the most charismatic. In fact, he often chooses individuals who seem ordinary, flawed, or even broken. It's a fascinating phenomenon that raises questions about our traditional understanding of heroism and what it means to be a chosen vessel of God. We often think of heroes as people who possess extraordinary qualities, like superhuman strength, unwavering courage, or unshakable confidence. We imagine them to be individuals who can overcome any obstacle, conquer any challenge, and inspire others with their bravery. But that's not exactly the kind of heroes we find in the Bible. In fact, most of the heroes of faith are quite ordinary people who struggled with their own set of flaws, fears, and doubts. Our secular understanding of heroism is often rooted in human achievement, often measured by human standards of success. We celebrate accomplishments, victories, and conquests, which can sometimes lead us to overlook the more subtle yet profound qualities that make someone a true hero. The Bible, on the other hand, presents a different kind of heroism, one that's rooted in humility, obedience, and surrender. In the biblical narrative, we find heroes who were initially overlooked, underestimated, or even rejected by their peers. They weren't necessarily the strongest, the wisest, or the most popular. Yet, God saw something in them that no one else did, potential despite their flaws to carry out his plans and purposes. David, the young shepherd boy, was an unlikely hero who defeated the giant Goliath. Moses, the former prince of Egypt, was an unlikely hero who stuttered and doubted his own abilities. Rahab, the prostitute from Jericho, was an unlikely hero who risked everything to hide the Israelite spies. What made them stand out, despite their shortcomings, was their willingness to trust, obey, and surrender to God's plan. David's story is a powerful example of God's purpose and plan. From the moment he was anointed by Samuel, David's life was marked by challenges, setbacks, and even failures. Yet, in each pivotal moment, we see David surrender to God, which ultimately led to his triumph. Who would have thought that a young shepherd boy would become the king of Israel, leading his people to victory and establishing a dynasty that would last for centuries? Moses' story is another remarkable example of God's choice. Raised in the palace of Pharaoh, Moses was well-educated, well-connected, and well-resourced. Yet, it was his willingness to surrender his own identity, his own plans, and his own doubts that enabled him to lead the Israelites out of slavery and into the Promised Land. Who would have thought that a stuttering, hesitant Moses would become the greatest leader of the Hebrew people? Rahab's story is a stunning example of God's redemption. A prostitute from Jericho, Rahab was an outcast, a social reject, and a moral failure. Yet her courage, her faith, and her determination to hide the Israelite spies marked her as an unlikely hero. Who would have thought that a morally compromised woman would become an ancestor of Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world? As we examine the stories of these unlikely heroes, we begin to see a pattern emerge. God's purpose and plan are not about our human achievements, but about our surrender to His will. He doesn't choose heroes based on their strengths, but on their willingness to trust, obey, and surrender. And in that surrender, we find true heroism, not because of who we are, but because of who God is. So what can we learn from the stories of these unlikely heroes? We can learn that God sees beyond our flaws, our fears, and our doubts. We can learn that true heroism is not about human achievement, but about surrender to God's plan. And we can learn that no matter how broken, flawed, or ordinary we may be, God can still use us to accomplish His purposes. What's your favorite unlikely hero from the Bible? Share with me in the comments below. And if you want to explore more biblical themes, check out my next video on the power of faith in the face of adversity. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.